It's the BSDFS Fantasy Football Podcast. If you don't know, now you know. If you ain't listening, why not? Boom.
This is the BSDFS Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by Scotty and Brian, with the quick picks that make you the quick bucks. We're going to simply cover the highlighted picks that will win you money. Let's get into it. Scotty, go ahead and start us off with some quarterbacks.
All right. So the first quarterback I want to talk about this week is some Jameis Winston going into Atlanta.
Knew it.
Yeah. I know the Atlanta defense is like suddenly amazing for whatever reason, but this is, Winston is actually leading.
It's a strong floor no matter what. I mean,
yeah,
whoever he goes up against, at least 20 points no matter what.
Yeah, he's sitting at a pretty good price point, and if you look, he's averaging 49.3 attempts a game, which is
just insane.
Yeah, he's actually second in the league behind Andy Dalton. Weirdly enough,
Andy Dalton's sitting down.
Right. So this matchup is actually projected as the highest total of the week at 51.5, with Atlanta favored by 4.5. And if you look at the Atlanta defense, they're not so good against the pass. They're actually ranked 27th in the DVOA rankings, but they're 11th against the run, so they're pretty solid against the run. So it's definitely going to be a game where Winston's going to have to do a lot, and obviously the Bucs have no issues letting him try and do everything.
Yeah, I mean, I had the exact same pick, and I kind of knew you were going to go with Jameis, so I made sure to do my research on Matt Ryan, because I kind of figured you would start off with Jameis, which, I mean, again, as dirty as Jameis ends up being, and oh my God, I would hate to be a Bucs fan, he puts up numbers no matter what, week after week, so I can't bash on it. I mean, he had 4 interceptions last week, still put up 22 points. It's nuts. It doesn't make sense, and it's not a winning strategy, which means that it probably won't be around like next year. But for this year, ride the wave. I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, he's got to get his numbers. I think the toughest decision comes down to who do we choose receiver-wise, Evans or Godwin, because they're just both get so many targets, so it's insane. But yeah, I 100% agree on that. But I went with some Matt Ryan because Tampa right now is looking at like the 30th on defense right now. They're awful. They're right on the bottom. And then on top of that, just like you said, it's going to be a shootout. No matter what, at the end of the day, Jameis is going to throw the ball. So they're both going to be scoring right and left. And it's going to be a quick pace game. Both of them have barely any running game whatsoever. So, and also I had, my stuff set up with the notes saying that 51.5 points for the total. So I 100% agree on that one. This is the way to go. Matt Ryan, he was hobbling around a little bit, but they said that he was going to be all right. He's still going to suit up. He was just sitting out for he sat out last Wednesday, still played the game, so I think we're good there. So
yeah, I do agree with you, but I think both sides of the ball are definitely in play here. And like you said, Tampa Bay is not very good against the pass, but they're actually number 1 against the run this year. So if the Falcons are going to win, it's probably going to be through Ryan.
Yeah. So who's your next quarterback?
The other one I wanted to talk about is some Derek Carr going into the New York Jets. Mm-hmm. The Jets are actually ranked 2nd against the run in the DVOA rankings, but they're a little below average against the pass at 21st. It's the 4th highest total of the week at 46.5. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ugly games this week, so
yeah, there really are.
Yeah, so we got to take the 46.5 and play those quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Oakland is favored by 3, but I think he'll end up being a little low owned just because he hasn't quite got a 300-yard passing game in 2019, and he is a little on the pricey side for only getting 16.1 DraftKings points a game. But I think he's in a very good matchup where, the Jets are going to be able to stop the run and maybe slow down Jacobs and force Carr to do a lot more.
Yeah.
And like I said before, just because of the ugly games on the slate, normally I probably wouldn't touch this, but you kind of have to take what you can get at quarterback this week.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And again, just as our typical fashion, we just seem to choose the exact opposite sides. I wrote this down as I chose the kid that sees ghosts, making a reference to Kid Cudi there with his album. But, Sam Darnold sees ghosts whenever he plays the New England Patriots. But, as much as I give him a hard time, he has been kind of heating up. He is playing at home. Oakland's defense isn't that good. And, he has a floor of 30 passing attempts per game. So, I don't think he's a great choice, but just like you said, it's just kind of digging at the barrel right now just because we don't know. We don't have too many good games going on because of all the buys that are ending, which next week we don't have to deal with because all the teams are going to be done with their bye week. But yeah, just because of the situation we're in, I would give him a shot just because he's sitting at 5,800 and he has gotten 20 plus points past 2 games. Seems like he's kind of getting his mojo back and he's playing at home.
Yeah, I do like Darnold. I'm a little worried that people are going to kind of chase points and he's going to be a little higher owned after a 4 touchdown performance last week.
Yeah, that's true.
But he is a really good price point and he's definitely worth taking a risk on.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to some running backs. And I know that we're going to completely agree with this one, and we probably both have this one down, is Derrick Henry. Waiting for your response.
I think he was a little too obvious, so I didn't actually take notes on him.
Gotcha. Well, Derrick Henry, he just always ramps up this time of year. I think, what was it, this time last year, he had, a 45-point outing? It was something just absolutely ridiculous. He just went nuts.
Like you said, against Jacksonville, wasn't it? Yeah, it was against Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. It was a Thursday night game, I think.
And it killed me because I had him in my season long, and it made me not make the playoffs. That son of a bitch. But
yeah,
this is the time he shines. Obviously, he's been heating up. He's been doing great. He's going up against a weak run defense right now. They're 25th against the run, and Tennessee has been red hot for Tennessee in the past 4 weeks. They've won 3 games, which they should not have obviously won. So, I feel like this is a time to play him in there. He's sitting at 6,900. I just think there aren't too many guys out there right now. So that's, one of the guys I'm just leaning on just because it seems like the obvious route. And I feel like a lot of these other higher picks that I would typically go with are having to share touches.
Yeah, Henry's definitely in a really good spot this week. I'm a little surprised he hasn't quite gotten over 7,000, especially with the last 2 weeks under his belt.
And I'll take it. I'll take it all day long.
So I'm going to kind of go with some risky plays this week. The first one I want to talk about is Bo Scarborough for Detroit. So the Detroit backfield is a bit of a mess at the moment, but after the last week, the game against Dallas, he kind of emerged as the lead back, getting 14 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was a red zone touch. It was a 5-yard run, so he's going to get the goal line work. But if you compare his workload in the last game to the other 2 backs on the roster, McKissick had 6 touches, and Ty Johnson only had 2. So he's going against a Washington defense that's allowing 133 rushing yards per game, which is ranked 28th in the league. Sitting at a really good price point at 4,200, so you're going to save a good bit of money.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he is going into a matchup where Detroit is favored by 3.5. It's a 42-point total.
Yeah, I didn't even consider him whatsoever. I didn't even look into him. But,
yeah, I guess with Detroit just kind of being a mess and like them trying to figure out who's going to be the running back, maybe people won't look at it too much.
Yeah, it sucks because they were so in the playoff picture, and then their quarterback goes out, and then just everything.
Yeah, and then Kerry and Johnson went down. That hurt a lot.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. It sucks that happened, but what can you do? Let's see. I had a really tough time researching on running backs this week. Do you have any others you want to go over?
My other one is a little bit on the stranger side as well, because I think this is definitely the kind of week where you're gonna have to pay up, because I feel like DraftKings really priced up a lot of the good options this week.
Yeah, McCaffrey's
not
10-5.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of good like mid-tier options.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one I want to talk about is some Kareem Hunt. I know Chubb is still the lead back by a considerable margin, but I think Hunt is getting more and more involved in this offense, and he's getting more and more comfortable, and we'll see him get more involved as a result. He's going into a matchup where Miami is like dead last in defense just across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
32nd against the pass, 29th against the run, averaging 148 rushing yards allowed. Hunt is definitely more of the change of pace back. He's kind of been used as a receiver quite a bit. He's actually averaging the second most targets on the team, only behind Beckham. And this is the biggest spread of the week at 10.5 with Cleveland being favored.
I could see them getting a big lead and just like sitting Chubb and being like, hey, chill out, let's run this guy, because also Hunt doesn't have the best reputation. So he's one of those backs, like, get your use out of him and, see what you can do.
Yeah, with that point spread, I think, like you said, Chubb could end up getting rested a little bit towards the end of the game if they do get off to a big lead. But, I mean, Hunt is involved in the offense one way or another, so it's not like he's not going to see the field in the first and second quarter.
Yeah, true. Well, let's move on to our wide receivers. One that I wanted to touch on right away. Again, this is just obvious right now. This is Washington. I mean, after the explosion that happened to our team and my Steelers that I got after playing the Browns, Washington's like the only healthy guy left right now. Johnson's out. Juju's out. Juju might be out not for just the concussion, but also for his, I think it's knee. And it's like, where's our team? Like, we're not sitting pretty right now. He was already sitting at getting increased targets from Rudolph. And Rudolph, I have no clue how he didn't get any suspensions after that, because I did think he kind of egged it on a little bit, but he's there. So I think he's going to continue targeting him, and they're going up against a non-existent defense. So I just think he's an obvious pick, and he's sitting at 5,000.
I mean, he is the only healthy receiver on the roster at the moment. Or, well, maybe not the only healthy one, but he's the only one that was in like the starting lineups.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody that was getting regular looks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good pick if both Johnson and Schuster are out.
It looks like they both are, and that's depressing.
Says Johnson was a full participant today.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, let's see. Schuster. They say Schuster's probably going to be out.
Yeah, because his knee hurt.
I mean, he's at worst the number 2 on the team.
Yeah. And he's sitting at a cheap price.
Wow.
All right.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Next one, I do want to talk about some Jamison Crowder.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets looks like they're kind of getting into a groove. They're getting a little more comfortable and not as awful as they were a couple weeks ago. Oakland is kind of below average against the pass in 2019, but they're actually pretty good against the run. So, like we commented on before, Darnold's definitely going to be involved in this game. He's going to have to do a lot. So, makes sense to pair him up with his favorite receiver.
Yeah.
Crowder is leading the Jets in targets at 7.3 per game. The next one up would be Demaryius Thomas at 5.9. And the last 3 games, he has at least 76 yards and a touchdown. And you look at last week's game with Darnold going off for 4 touchdowns. It seems like a good time and a good price. Yeah. It seems like a good time to pick Crowder. So I am
especially with limited options out there.
Yeah.
I was looking at some Ridley because it looks
my
like
other one.
I mean, we can concur on that and elaborate because it looks like Julio Jones is not going to be playing right now, which that is, a big deal. It's going to put him as number 1, sitting at 6,500, going up against a bad defense. And just like we were talking about, it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be perfect pairing. Pair him up with some Matt Ryan in there, and we're good to go. I think they could have a blow-up game right there. I think there are like 2 or 3 games that are just game stackable, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people are going to be chasing points with him a little bit because he is coming off of a 31-point DraftKings point game.
But if you chase
such a good
when he's wide receiver 1,
yeah.
If Julio Jones is out, he's wide receiver 1. I don't think it's chasing points at that.
No, I mean it's a really good matchup, and he's not too expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other end of that, just as a quick talking point, who would you go with, Godwin or Evans?
I'm gonna tell you the safe answer. I'm gonna say I'm gonna do half and half.
Yeah,
that seems like the only logical step. I think the other thing to consider is Brate finally got involved in the offense. He's coming off of a 14 target game last week.
Wasn't Howard injured?
No, Howard, from what I read, he had a pass thrown his way that was perfectly catchable, went off his hands, got intercepted, and he just got benched right after that. So they're just giving up on him. So it looks like Brate's going to step back in and be like the number 1 tight end again.
I did the research to check the numbers. So this is how crazy, like how tight the targets are. Evans has 92 targets. Godwin has 90.
Yep.
That's insane.
And they're literally always like within $300 of each other.
I mean, it makes sense. They're both perfect targets. I mean, like,
yeah. One of them's averaging.
I was shocked when I looked that up because I was like, I'm gonna go count every single one, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, Evans is averaging 21 fantasy points a game. Godwin's averaging 20.9. So there's a 0.1 difference between the two of them on the season.
That's insane. Go ahead and start us off with the tight ends.
Right. Okay. The only one I have this week, I do like some Darren Waller going into the Jets to pair up with the Carr pick earlier. He still leads Oakland in targets at 7.2 a game. Second place goes to Williams at 5.4, so he's a pretty clear favorite of Carr's. I think at a glance, if you look at DraftKings, it says the Jets are 9th against tight ends, but in reality, they're kind of below average. They're actually ranked 24th in the DVOA rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I think the DraftKings ranking is inflated a little bit just because they haven't really played too many elite tight ends this season.
Yeah.
the only notable ones would be, Ertz got 14.5 points on him, and for the Giants game, Ingram actually didn't suit up and play, so the rest of the games have just been against pretty much irrelevant fantasy tight ends. So I think it's a little bit deceptive. I think people might be a little bit off of him just because they, look at that ranking. And... What's that?
In that price tag.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be a little under the radar this week, and I really like him going against the Jets.
Yeah. Well, speaking of elite tight ends and one that you just mentioned, I was looking at some Ertz. He's definitely a pricey tight end. Kind of the exact same way that you were looking at it, was he's going to be probably low owned. He's going to be sitting at 6,000, which you're going to have to adjust your lineup to be able to fit him in there. But I do think it's definitely worth it. He's been heating up the past 2 games, and there aren't many receivers on your team right now in the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think he's going to be getting more targets. And then also on top of it, it's a must-win game for them. And Seattle let the Bengals get 418 yards on them. So, their defense is basically non-existent. So I think this is a chance for Philadelphia to right the ship and be able, he's a consistent, solid target. And Seattle, they're going to score a lot, but so is Philadelphia. And I think this is a good place to go with Zach Ertz.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of surprised that Philly's favored by 1.5 in that game.
Yeah, I concur. But a lot of the wins from Seattle has just been like squeak out wins. Like, they haven't been like Patriots wins. It's been like, oh, we're down by 3 or down by 2 and we get field goal. It's like they just squeak by wins. That's what they've been leaning on all season. And they did that to my Steelers, and that pissed me off.
Yeah, all their games have been like within a score, except for I think the Arizona game they dominated a bit, but well, anyway. Do you want to talk about any other tight ends?
Nope. Let's move on to some defenses.
Dude, I guess I'll go ahead and start off. The only defense I really want to talk about this week, the only one I want to talk about would be the Saints. They're sitting at 3,300. They're going up against Carolina at home. It is a 47-point total, which is a little on the higher side, but New Orleans is favored by 9.5, which is the second largest spread of the week. And it's a pretty, it's a top 10 defense. They're averaging 9.2 DraftKings points a game. And Carolina, I think another part of it is that Carolina's just so terrible against the run. So New Orleans is going to be able to like really grind out the clock and
2 separate super strong running backs.
Yeah,
I agree. I hated that, and I've got that in my notes too. I didn't want to see that for the hometown team for us, but it is what it is.
Yeah, they're a little pricey, but they're not in that like top 5. They're on the good side of 3,500. Yeah,
I agree. As far as what I'm going to be targeting the most, which is one of the top ones, is of course the Steelers defense. That is just insane. Like, they have been going lights out all season. I wish they had this defense last year. I can only imagine how well they would do. Because, we were one of the tops in red zone completions. But of course, we decided to get our defensive act up a year late. So, but ever since we've gotten Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's been just a game changer. We've had interceptions just about every single game. Oakland gave away 5 sacks on Finley last week. At this point, Dalton would be a better pick for them for Cincinnati. if Oakland can get away with that, I can only imagine we're going to get way more than 5. So that was defense. I know they're pricey, but that's the one that I'm just going to be loading up on. Even though it is a crazy price point, but if you can adjust it around, I think it'll be worth it and it will pay off. All right. So let's move on to our sneaky pick of the week. Do you want to start us off or you want me to start us off? And mine's a little bit wacky. I feel like you've given away all your wacky ones already.
Yeah. I kind of focus a lot on the sneaky picks. Pretty much all my picks were trying to be under the radar and sneaky, so I don't really have anything for you.
Wow. I'm going to go over one. I thought you were going to say this guy. I was kind of surprised that you didn't. I was looking at the juice in Washington.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that he would be great for them in the future, and I think that they would probably be better off just not playing him too hard and like giving him a few carries and not a lot. He's sitting at 4,700 right now on the Redskins. They don't really have much going on for them. Peterson's been injured. He didn't practice today, so I don't know if he's still going to end up suiting up, but he didn't practice today. Detroit is a mess, so I feel like the easiest way to play this game for Washington is just to run the ball. And I mean, they've been pretty bad at managing their team. Again, I think the best way would just be to let this guy, have a handful of carries here and there and let him, wait until Peterson's out and then have him start so that way he doesn't get injured. But Washington isn't the best managed. So I do think he might be a random sneaky pick in there.
I'm only a little concerned because he does have to share a backfield with Peterson. Because, Peterson, he does draw a questionable tag a lot, but it's more just like veteran rest days for the most part.
Yeah, true. I agree. And again, I think the smart thing would be to just keep on playing like they're playing right now, have Peterson get most of it, and then have Juice go in there and get, maybe 7 or 8 attempts. But I'm kind of leaning on the mismanagement here of Washington.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Geis.
I'm gonna call him Juice. Sorry.
Okay. I just want to be sure you're doing it on purpose.
Yep. I'm gonna call him the Juice. Just
all
like Jose.
Oh no.
All right. Well, let's go on to the gut check of the week.
Ooh, gut check!
All right, who's going first?
Go ahead and start us off, Scotty.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my Derek Carr and pair him up with some Waller. I think running back wise, we do have to save a little bit of money, so I might just go right down my list, to be honest.
I don't blame you. It's a weird week. I really think it's going to be only a handful of lineups that I can structure that make sense in my head besides just a random input here and there.
So I'm going to do Hunt and Scarborough and receiver.
Making it real cheap.
We're going to go ahead and stick in some Ridley. And I guess we'll save $100 and go with Godwin over Evans. The last receiver. I didn't really look into the super cheap receivers this week.
You've still got about $5,000 and you haven't even looked at defense yet.
Yeah.
Sometimes I plug in a defense in there just to see.
Yeah.
How much more I have in that range.
Yeah, let me go ahead and do the New Orleans defense.
New Orleans.
And then we'll switch back to receiver and do... Damn, sorry. I'm not as prepared as I thought it would be.
You're fine.
Let me go ahead and stick in Crowder, and then for flex... You know what? Let's do some...
200.
Stick in some Devontae Parker. He's been having some pretty solid games recently.
Yeah.
Back-to-back 10 targets.
I would kind of absolutely love it if the Dolphins end up beating Cleveland.
Oh, I know you would.
The storyline has been, oh, Cleveland's good now because they beat the shit out of Steelers, literally and metaphorically. I don't think there's really a metaphor there, but yeah, I'd run with it. All right, so let me see what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna start off real quick with some Matt Ryan, just to kind of do a little bit of the opposite of that side of things. Go with some Ridley, just like what you had set up. Again, I told you I had a really tough time this week with running backs. Let's see. I'm going to go with some Derrick Henry. From there, one that I don't know about. I don't know if I agree with this one, but I had a really rough time finding some running backs. I'm going to go with some Leonard Fournette. I'm sure you probably have some complaints with that one. You're probably like, no, that's a bad idea, partner. But
Tennessee is a top 5 run D.
Yeah, I knew you would talk me out of it. Let's change that up. Let's see. I mean, otherwise I'm gonna have to just go with my punt play with the juice, or as you like to call it, the Geis. So I'm gonna go with that. That'll give me more money, so it might work out. I'll go with, for tight end, I'm gonna go with some McDonald. Again, it just kind of leans on the fact that there really aren't many consistent receivers on the team, and he's one of two in the starting lineup that has been in the starting lineup. So I'm gonna go with him. Let's see. I've got to choose my Steelers defense in here. From the Steelers defense, not sitting at a lot. Really wanted to fit in either some Godwin or some Mike Evans, but that doesn't look that readily available to me. Let's check out. Go with some Washington. That'll give me a little bit of money.
You want 2 Steelers?
Oh, very good point. Very good point. Never mind. Let's walk that back. Let's see. How much is Shark? Chark is looking pricey. Let's see if I can realistically fit that in there. How much was your Crowder pick again?
62.
I'm going to go with some Crowder. It gives me about $6,000 per position right now. Let's see. I'm having a tough time here, if you can't tell.
It's getting rough.
It's slim pickings. What's Gallup looking like? Okay, I can fit him in there. I'm worried about that one as well, but it is a punt play, and I feel like New England always takes out the best pick on the team, and that is not Gallup. He's the second pick. So I'm going to kind of put him in there. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but,
not really. I mean, he's averaging like 10 targets a game the last 3.
Yeah. And then to figure it all out, maybe I'll go with your hunt pick.
All right.
Which is my punt pick. So, and that is my lineup.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the BSDFS Fantasy Football Podcast. Hopefully you can take these picks and go out there and win you some money. So that's going to do it for us. Peace.